Vietnam War comes to my mind as a generation or defining moment or event.
So, can you describe how your family felt during this war?
Well, I was kind of little, but what I remember that it was like a stressful time, and my brother and father always talking about this Vietnam War.
I think another topic which I was not there in America during that period, but basically we all learn and keep learning about what went wrong and why it happened. It is famous Vietnam War, and which went for it was a decade-long war, and basically until Vietnam, it was assumed that United States could shape foreign policy in any way it wished, and also wherever they want. And the war changed that outlook for American leadership and also American society, and made Americans and us realize that uh, uh, basically it is not only one single foreign power. Basically, it was a global community, and that we could have make policy decisions with the framework. You can, yeah, you can cut that. We can record it again.
Vietnam was a major shaping influence on everybody my age. I had friends who went to Vietnam and came back blinded, missing an eye, missing a leg, huge psychological problems, or in a body bag and got buried. I had a couple of good friends that I used to motorcycle with who became helicopter pilots. One of them was listed as missing in action in a rather famous action that a Gene Hackman movie made about it. I never knew what happened to him for years and years because he was reported as missing. And eventually, when I went to the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, I found his name on the wall, read the thing, and figured out that he'd been missing for years, and they finally declared him dead as of like 1972 or something like that. So it was a big shakeup. Everybody knew somebody who was involved, or they were involved directly themselves. It's not like the current sort of Afghanistan and Iraqi conflicts, which has taken an all-volunteer force and has had very, very little impact on the day-to-day lives of most Americans around. Everybody had some deep connection. Your next-door neighbor had gone to war, your brother had gone to war, your father, something. It reached much deeper into America's, person, I would say, is a good way to put it. It was personal for everybody, and it was deeper reach into more corners of society, and was really, really a divisive thing. I grew up in a military family. My dad was an Air Force officer, and one might expect, based on that, that I'd actually have been hawkish on the war, but it turned out my father was actually rather anti-war. And his reason for that was very different from mine. His view was that he was a man who believed in duty and that things needed to be done to protect America, and he was willing to put his life on the line. And he served as a Cold Warrior. He was flying in nuclear bombers during the Cold War all the time, ready to blow the Soviet Union into dust at any given moment if the order came through. Thankfully, it never did. But anyway, his view was that if a government is to expend lives, he was one of those who was on the line willing to have his life spent. But he thought it was incumbent upon the government to make proper choices, moral choices, good choices, and if that precious resource was to be spent, it must be spent in ways that made a difference, ways that mattered. And he was convinced that Vietnam was not one of those things. It was a waste of human life, and thought that that was just immoral. To take people who were willing to die for their country and have them die unnecessarily was terribly upsetting to him as a career military officer. He thought it was a horrible thing. I was mostly just a pacifist by contrast, so I had completely different reasons. And I didn't understand any of it. The domino theory didn't make any sense to me. As I looked around, it seemed to me that, there weren't any Viet Cong working around Safeway. I didn't see how, they had no Navy. There was no way they were going to come be a threat to me. I saw absolutely no reason to go kill people or risk being killed for what was going on then. And I didn't serve. I was lucky. I was one of the guys who came out okay on the draft lottery. My draft number was, I was in the first pulse of the draft lottery. My draft number was 200 based on my birth date, and they went to 197 in my board the year of my jeopardy for it, so I didn't get taken by that much, and I'm very glad that happened. It was a traumatic time to live through, and people who've been through that era have very firm views about it. I know that there's been a lot of talk since then. People are really, really big nowadays after Iraq and Afghanistan on trying to show that we support the troops, because the feeling at the time was that there was no support for the troops. People came back feeling as if they were criminals, being treated as criminals rather, and when they thought they were up there to do service. And I'm in sort of an odd middle point with that. I view the people who served in Vietnam as victims. And I never have felt comfortable thanking anyone for their service in Vietnam because I didn't want them to go. I thought it was an immoral activity and they shouldn't be involved. It was the wrong thing for the U.S. to do. I did not want any of it done in my name as part of the United States, as a citizen of the United States. I didn't want any of that to happen. And the people who did go and who suffered, I saw as war victims more than anything else. And so I feel great sorrow and sympathy for the people who had to go and who suffered so badly, had to do horrible things and have horrible things done to them. And I think they deserve all the support and care they can get. But it's not gratitude for me, because I didn't want it to happen. It's not, thank you for your service. It's, oh God, I'm so sorry you had to do that, which is a very different emotion.